Hi, everyone. My name is Ice Cube. My given name is Ehsan Bayat, and it's my distinct pleasure that we are going to go through QSource. That's right, QSource. So, as you see, Ice Cube. Um, so, let's go through it, dear friends. So, I'm going to share my screen so we can go through QSource. You should be seeing it right now. Here it is, Introduction to the QSource Workbook by Ehsan Bayat, Ice Cube. All right. During this session, session one, we're going to be going through the first quadrant, which is get right. Here's our picture, get right. So in today's session, we'll be exploring the first quadrant, Q1, Get Right. Brothers, welcome to this Get Right series. It's a deep dive into the first quadrant of the QSource. Today, we're going to walk through all 12 points of Q1, which is the foundation of a high-impact man's life. These are not surface level ideas, dear friends. Each Q point is a key component of how a man rightly aligns his priorities, disciplines, and relationships. This is where impact begins. You can't lead others if you're lost yourself. You can't lead others if you're lost yourself. You can't live right if you haven't gotten right. So, dear friends, in this series of talks, we're going to take you through each Q point in detail. I hope you spend time and reflect as I am speaking with you. What it is, why it matters to you, to your community, to your family, and what happens when it's neglected, and how can you actively live it out, starting now. These aren't just ideas to admire. They are decisions to make, actions to take, and habits to build. From the first to the last of the Q points, from the daily red pill to your relationship with your M and shorties, from your fitness and faith disciplines to your shield lock and work life. Dear friends, this quadrant covers it all, because before you live right, lead right, or leave right, you've got to get it right. So, dear friends, let's lean in. Let's reflect. Let's take notes. And talk with your brothers. And we need to apply it all. So, dear friends, let's build men from the core, not from image or impulse, but from alignment, accountability, and purpose. So let's get it right. So Q1.1, the DRP, the daily red pill. So here's my image. As you can see, the daily red pill that we have to take. What happens if we don't take the daily red pill? Reflect on that. Where will we be? What will become of us? What will come of our family, our community? We have to be taking this daily red pill. Brothers, if there's one place a man must begin in the QSource, it's right here. Q1.1, the daily red pill. This is where the hymn's journey truly starts, with a decision, not once, daily. Because becoming the man you were created to be doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. The daily red pill, or DRP, is your daily commitment to accelerate your fitness, your fellowship, and your faith. It's a conscious decision to live intentionally rather than passively. It's the moment each morning when you decide not to drift, when you reject the temptation to coast through life and instead embrace the discomfort. Embrace the discomfort. The discomfort of growth. It's about stepping out of the shadows of comfort, apathy, and distraction, and into a life of mission. The term comes from the Matrix, where taking the red pill means choosing to see the truth, to wake up to reality, even when it's hard. That's what the DRP is. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you choose to live truthfully, with clarity, and with resolve. Because without the DRP, a man stays where it's easy. And let's be honest, dear friends, comfort is the enemy of growth. Repeat that. Comfort is the enemy of growth. A man without the DRP lives in survival mode. He reacts instead of leads. He blames instead of owns. He drifts into distraction. The phone, the screen, the couch, the bottle, and wakes up wondering why nothing in his life is moving forward. Without the DRP, life is not mission-driven. It's just a loop of motion without meaning. But dear friends, when a man takes that DRP, the daily red pill, everything changes. It means he's becoming self-aware. He knows where he's weak and where he must grow. He's taking ownership, not waiting for someone else to lead. He's taking ownership, dear friends. He moves with humility, knowing he needs others and needs his creator. And most of all, he lives with intentionality, on purpose, not by accident. So what does this look like? What does a man who takes the DRP actually do? He shows up to the gloom when it's cold, when he's tired, or more important, when in Houston or in Texas, when it's hot. He shows up. And he shows up when he's tired. When every voice in his head says, stay in bed, and he shows up anyway. He leads his family in prayer instead of waiting for someone else to. He writes down a plan for the day instead of letting the chaos dictate his time. He has the hard conversation he's been avoiding. He picks up the phone to EH a brother who's been drifting, even if it's awkward. Taking the DRP isn't about being perfect. It's about being awake, present, and committed. It's choosing to live as a high-impact man, even when it's hard. Now, expect resistance. You will face it every day. You'll hear the voice that says, I'm too tired. What's the point? I'm not like those other guys. The world will throw distractions at you, obligations, entertainment, comfort, and if you try to go it alone without your shield lock, dear friends, you'll be tempted to give in. But that's why we do this together. We are brothers. But that's why we do this together. And that's why we lock shields. Because the world is too dark and the mission is too critical to go solo. So how do you make the DRP more than a concept? You build it into your rhythm. You set a trigger. Maybe it's when your alarm goes off on your phone, right? When your feet hit the floor or when you lace up your shoes. Speak it out loud. I'm taking the DRP today. You write it down. You text a brother. You build a habit and let that habit transform you day by day, day by day. The Apostle Paul said it this way, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. That's what the DRP is. It's a daily renewal, a deliberate decision to transform from the inside out. So if you remember one thing, dear friends, from this entire quadrant, remember this. You don't drift toward greatness. You decide it. You decide where you're there daily, every day. You decide your way there. The DRP is the first, most essential step in becoming the man your family, your community, and your brothers need you to be. Dear friends, cannot stress this enough. The DRP is the first, it's the most essential step in becoming the man your family, your community, and brothers need you to be. Without it, dear friends, the rest of the F3 collapses. With it, everything becomes possible. So, dear friends, ask yourself, have you taken the DRP today? So, dear friends, that was the first Q point, the DRP, daily red pill. Next Q point in the first quadrant is the king. Here's our picture. The king. Q.1.2. The king. The daily discipline of fitness. The daily discipline of fitness. The king. Repeat these things so you hear what these Q points are. So the first Q.11 is the daily red pill. The second 1.2 is the king. Learn the QSource. So the second is the king. 1.2, the king. Dear brothers, in the QSource framework, after a man commits to taking the daily red pill, so you see how it's evolving. The very next step is Q1.2, the king. And that's no accident, dear friends, because once a man wakes up to the truth and chooses to live intentionally, the first domain he must bring under control is his body. Makes sense, right? The king represents the daily discipline of physical fitness, not for vanity, it's not for aesthetics, but for readiness. Readiness, dear friends. In F3, we say the king is one of the man's three royal disciplines. There's the king, the queen, and the jester. And of these, the king is the physical representation of acceleration. Because if a man's body is not under his command, neither is anything else. That's so true. Here's the truth. A man's fitness precedes his leadership. Why? Because discipline in the body leads to discipline in the mind. The way you treat your body, how you move, what you endure, how you push past the pain, bleeds into everything else. The man who learns to control his body is learning how to control his appetites, his reactions, and ultimately his decisions. The king is not about being the strongest guy on the field. It's about being the most prepared for adversity, prepared for responsibility, and for sacrificial leadership. Dear friends, now let's be clear. The king isn't about ego lifting or trying to impress anyone. It's not about how much you bench or what you look like shirtless. The king is about capacity, the ability to show up strong, endure long, and serve well. Dear friends, to serve well. Serve your family, serve your community, to serve well. It's about having the strength to carry your kids when you're tired, to run toward danger when others run away, to keep standing when life punches hard. A high impact man, is not soft. He is not fragile. He is not asleep. He is ready, and that readiness begins with the body. But what happens when a man neglects the king? We've all seen it, dear friends. I am one of those people that neglected his body. Apathy creeps in. He stops pushing. He loses energy. He loses focus. He becomes reactive and sluggish, mentally, emotionally, not just physically. He's out of shape and he knows it. But worse, he's out of rhythm, out of order, and out of sync with his potential. Without fitness, fatigue becomes normal. Laziness becomes excusable, and the slow drift toward mediocrity begins. And that mediocrity doesn't just stay in the mirror. It starts affecting his relationships, his confidence, his leadership. When a man loses command of his body, he starts losing command of his mission. So what does it actually look like to live with the king rightly ordered? Dear friends, it means movement, daily deliberate movement. It means pushing your body in ways that are uncomfortable but necessary. It means pushing that 1% better every day, right? It means getting up early, lacing up the shoes, and getting after it in the gloom, even when your bed whispers lies about comfort. It means embracing that sweat, struggle, soreness, and realizing these are not obstacles, they are gifts. Your Q is giving you gifts every morning by that beatdown. Every single drop of sweat is a deposit in your leadership account. Every burpee, every run, every rep, it's building something inside of you that cannot be bought, faked, or outsourced. Dear friends, you don't need a gym. You don't need gear. You don't need perfect technique. You need commitment, consistency, and a few brothers beside you to push you past your excuses. Dear friends, but don't expect it to be easy. The moment you start pursuing physical discipline, resistance shows up. Your body will protest. Your body will protest. The enemy will whisper, "You've done enough. You've done enough. Skip today. It's not that big a deal." Your schedule will fight you. Your comfort zone will try to seduce you. That's why the king must be guarded like a throne under siege. So how do you integrate the king into your life? You start small, but you start not. I'm Persian, and it is a saying in Persian. It says, "Ruse be ruse, day by day." That's how you get better. Ruse be ruse. You set a time and you protect it. You join a workout. You invite a brother. You pick a standard and you chase it. You track your progress, but don't obsess over numbers. You focus on consistency. And most importantly, tie your way to something bigger than yourself. Don't just work out to look good. It's not about the weight. Work out to be ready for your family, for your mission, for your calling. Dear friends, let's not forget, Jesus didn't call soft men. He called fishermen, laborers, men who were used to lifting, walking, bleeding, enduring. The king isn't just about being fit. It's about being forged into a man of grit, endurance, and availability. So, dear brothers, if you want to get right, and this is what this quadrant is about, getting right. So if you want to get right, start here, bring your body into submission, train like your leadership depends on it, because it does. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up every day and reign over the king. There we are, dear friends. That was the second Q point in our first quadrant. The next Q point is the queen. This is, so dear friends, repeat, the queen. This is first quadrant, third Q point, Q1.3, the queen. This is the daily discipline of what you put into your body. So the first one was the DRP, the daily red pill. Second, the king. Now we're on the third, the queen. The queen is the daily discipline of what you put into your body. So let's get into it, dear friends. The queen is the daily discipline of what you put into your body. Brothers, if the king represents the daily discipline of the physical movement, that exercise, that physical fitness, of getting stronger, pushing harder, showing up with intensity, then the queen represents the other half of that equation, the fuel, the daily discipline of what you put into your body. It's one of the most overlooked aspects of a man's pursuit to get right. Not because it's unimportant, not because it's uncomfortable. Food, drink, consumption. These are areas where even the strongest men often lack control. But let's not pretend. You cannot out-king your queen. You cannot out-king your queen. You can work out like a beast in the gloom, but if your diet is dominated by junk, sugar, processed foods, and unchecked indulgence, you're building on a cracked foundation. The king and queen, dear friends, have to be in sync. The queen is not about being skinny or following trendy diets or living with guilt over food. It's about mastery, dear friend. About him being a steward of the body God gave him. The queen is about what you consume and how intentionally you consume it. Because what you put in determines what comes out. Your energy, your mood, your focus, your health, your longevity. If the king makes you strong, the queen makes you sustainable. So why does the queen matter, dear friends? Because discipline in consumption builds discipline in the soul. The man who learns to control his appetite at the table can better control his emotion. Think about that, dear friends. His cravings, his impulses in every other area of his life. And that's what the Get Right quadrant is. It's all about internal alignment. If you let food control you, you are not fully free. Dear friends, I'm going to pause right here because as I am going through this with you, dear friends, I am self-reflecting. This Get Right quadrant, not only are we, when we first start on this daily red pill, that is a discipline in itself to take it every day. It's a discipline. Then the next discipline is the fitness. And now we're entering a third discipline, which is the discipline of control over our consumption. So as you can see, this Get Right is about discipline, these disciplines that we have to have. And this discipline in consumption builds discipline in our soul. But dear friends, let's be honest. We live in a culture of excess. Food is everywhere. Ads tell us, you deserve this, you deserve it. Portions are oversized. We eat when we're bored, we eat when we're stressed, we eat when we're sad, we eat when we're celebrating. We medicate with sugar, we sedate with alcohol, we reward ourselves with consumption, and then wonder, why am I feeling slow? Why am I feeling tired? Why do I feel bloated or mentally foggy? That's not fuel, dear friends. That's bondage. So what happens when the queen is neglected? You know the answer. You feel it in your body. You feel it in your belt, your blood pressure, your energy levels. You feel it when your workouts plateau, when you crash midday, when you can't sleep well. But even more dangerous is what happens internally. When a man gives up the fight over the queen, he starts giving up the fight in other areas too. He stops saying no to himself. He becomes numb spiritually, emotionally, even relationally. He loses his edge, his flame dulls, he starts coasting. So what does it look like to live out the queen in a way that strengthens, not restricts? It starts with awareness, not shame, not obsession, but awareness, dear friends. What am I putting in my body? What am I putting in my body? Is it fueling me for mission or numbing me for comfort? Am I eating with intention or am I eating with impulse? Discipline, right? Discipline, dear friends. It continues with discipline. That might mean tracking your intake. It might mean eliminating sugar and alcohol. It might mean intermittent fasting or prioritizing whole foods. The how will vary, but the heart must be constant. I eat to strengthen. I eat to strengthen. This is very good. I eat to strengthen, right? I eat to strengthen my body for service, not to escape, not to indulge, not to cope, but to serve. Right, dear friends? A few practical wins. Drink more water than you think you need. Start your day with protein. Eat foods your grandma would recognize. Stop eating when you're 80% full. Learn to sit with hunger. Learn to say no. Remember, discipline. And sometimes, yes, fast. Not just to build willpower, but to remind yourself that you're not ruled by your stomach. But know this, dear friends, you will face resistance. We have said this. The queen fights back. Sugar is addictive. Food is emotional. And people will tell you, loosen up. Just enjoy yourself. But here's the thing. Freedom doesn't mean eating whatever you want. Freedom means not needing to. The him is not enslaved by his cravings. He is ruled by his convictions. And remember this, dear friends, this isn't about legalism. There's room for feasting, for celebration, for joy. But when every meal becomes a celebration, celebration loses its meaning. The queen thrives under rhythm, not chaos, under structure, not impulse. So, dear brothers, if you want to get right, and this is what this quadrant is about, if you want to get right, you must bring forth the king and the queen under discipline. The king, the fitness, the queen, control of your consumption, under your rhythm, not chaos, under structure, not impulse. So, dear brothers, because a man who cannot control what goes into his mouth, he will struggle to control what comes out of his life. So we've got to step into it. We don't diet. We got to decide. We control ourselves. We don't restrict. We refocus. We don't shame ourselves. We strengthen ourselves. We own the queen. We fuel the mission. and we live free. And that's what the queen is about. And that was what the third cue point of the first quadrant is about, the queen. Now, dear friends, we're going into the fourth cue point, the jester. I love this one. So brilliant. QSource is so brilliant. I encourage you to study it as I am going through it, and I encourage you to watch this video. So this is the fourth cue point, the jester. And this is my picture. The fourth cue point. And I made it scary, as you can see, the jester. The daily discipline of guarding against your disruptor. As you can see, here is a him looking into the mirror, and he is seeing the jester, the darkness. And he is confronting him. So now we're at the fourth cue point, the jester. Hope you're reflecting and learning the QSource as we're going through. Brothers, we've talked about the daily red pill. We've talked about the choice to live intentionally. We've talked about the king, right? The king, the daily discipline of fitness. And we just talked about the queen, the daily discipline of what we consume. Now we come to something more subtle. This is also discipline, dear friend, but just as dangerous. This is Q1.4, the jester. And if you don't name it, fight it, and outsmart it, it will take you down. The jester is your personal disruptor. Let's say that again, dear friends. The jester is your personal disruptor. It's the weakness within you, often hidden, often excused, that has the power to undo your acceleration. It's not just a bad habit. It's the thing that keeps showing up in moments of fatigue, stress, boredom, or fear. It's the sin that entangles, the shadow that lingers, the lie you believe, the pleasure you run to when you're tired of fighting. And here's what makes the jester so dangerous. It always wears a smile. It promises relief. It pretends to be harmless. It tells you, you've earned this. It makes you laugh, but its real goal is to keep you stagnant and eventually to take you out. Dear friends, for some men, the jester is pornography, the constant pull into shame, secrecy, and isolation. For others, it's alcohol or gluttony or anger. It might be comfort, control, or self-pity. It might even be something socially acceptable, like workaholism or chronic sarcasm, or the funny guy persona that hides deep insecurity. Dear friends, but make no mistake. The jester is a master of distraction and delay. He doesn't need to destroy you in a day. He just needs to keep you from becoming who you're meant to be. One compromise at a time. So how do you fight him? How do you fight the jester? First, you name your jester. Because what you don't name him, you can't defeat. That means honest self-examination, like that him that was looking in the mirror. You name him. No spin, no denial. No, it's not that bad. You already know what it is. You know what keeps cracking back into your life when your guard is down. You know the voice, the pattern, the cycle. Name it. Second, you bring it into the light. The jester thrives in isolation. He wants to convince you you're the only one. He wants you quiet, embarrassed, hidden. But when you speak it out loud to a brother in your shield lock, the jester loses power. That's not weakness, dear friends. That's warfare. That's what real men do. They don't hide their battles. They fight them together. Third, You build a defense. That means boundaries. That means replacing your default with something better. It means when temptation hits, you've already chosen your response, whether it's a phone call, a workout, a cold shower, a walk, a scripture, or a breath prayer. You do not give the jester an opening. And finally, dear friends, you refuse to give up when you fall, because you will. You will. This damn jester is crafty. He's patient. He knows your weakest moments. But grace is stronger than shame, and you are not what you've done. You are who you are becoming. Repeat that, dear friends. You are you who you are becoming. So when you fall, get back up. Recommit. Re-engage. Don't let a fall become a lifestyle. You see, the jester isn't just some silly metaphor. No, this jester is not some silly metaphor. It's spiritual warfare in disguise. It's the reason so many strong men never fully realize and rise. They're fast, they're funny, they're fit, but they're still chained by what they won't confront. They're not confronting the jester that is it within them. And you know what's at stake? Their marriages, their kids, their calling, their joy. Because the jester doesn't just hurt you. It hurts, and he hurts everyone who depends on you. Dear brothers, if you want to get right, this is the fourth cue point. If you want to get right, you must do more than push hard and eat clean. You must go to war with your jester. You must decide every day that he does not get the final word. Let me ask you, what's your jester's name? What's your jester's name? What is it? And who is he that is trying to drag you down? For some, it might be, as mentioned, alcoholism, pornography. What is your jester's name? Is it laziness, slothfulness, gluttony? What will you do when he comes calling? Who knows about it? And what truth will you speak back when he lies to you? It's okay. It feels good. Don't worry about it. Because he will lie. He will whisper. He will wait. But you were made for more. You were made to walk free. You were made to fight clean and live light. Dear friends, name that jester. Break his grip. Confront the jester and walk in the light. And most important, never fight alone. So there we are, dear friends. That was the fourth cue point, the jester. Now we enter into the fifth cue point of our first quadrant. Now we enter into the M. So this is first quadrant and our fifth cue point, the M. This is the daily discipline of investing in your most proximate relationship. Let's find out what this M is about. Here you can see a him with his M. First quadrant, fifth cue point, the M. The daily discipline of investing in your most proximate relationship. Brothers, in F3, we believe a man's priorities must be ordered from the inside out. And when it comes to relationships, no connection is more proximate, more vital, or more revealing than the M. And what is this M? It's his relationship with his wife. If a man is unmarried, this point still applies to the most important adult relationship in his life. the one with whom he shares vulnerability, time, and influence. So in the fifth Q point of the first quadrant, the M is all about intentional investment. Repeat that, intentional investment in the person who sees the real you, not the one you are at the workout, not the leader others admire, but the man who leaves dirty dishes in the sink, who forgets what she said yesterday, who gets quiet when things get hard. Dear friends, it's this relationship, your most proximate one, that will tell truth about whether or not you're truly living as a high impact man. Dear friends, and here's the reality. Too many men pursue greatness in the other circles: work, leadership, ministry, fitness. But while letting this inner circle, this is the most inner circle, while letting this inner circle quietly starve. They win the admiration of strangers while losing the connection with the one they vowed to love, protect, and pursue. That's not leadership. That's neglect dressed in busyness. The M is not about grand gestures. It's not about anniversaries and flowers. It's about daily, consistent, selfless investment. It's the way you listen without solving. It's the way you serve without expecting credit. It's the way you speak gently when you're tired. It's the way you hold your tongue instead of defending yourself. It's the way you pursue her heart, even when it feels distant. Dear friends, why is this so important? Because marriage isn't about happiness. It's about holiness. It's not about being fulfilled. It's about being formed. The M is the fire where selfishness dies and sacrificial love is refined. No other relationship will reveal your pride, your impatience, or your insecurity like the one you've covenanted to love for a lifetime. But no other relationship will sharpen your soul like this one either, if you lean in. So what happens when a man neglects the M? Slowly, over time, trust erodes. Connection fades. Distance grows. Conversations become transactional. Physical intimacy fades. The house stays full, but the hearts feel empty. And the danger, a man might not even notice until the day she stops fighting for it, and the silence becomes permanent. But a man who invests in the M daily builds something unshakable. He builds a bond that weathers storms. He creates a space where both can grow, be known, and be safe. He models to his children what love really looks like. Not a feeling, but a choice. Not perfection, but pursuit. What does this investment look like? Dear friends, it's time. Unplugged, undistracted time. It's checking in not just with how was your day, but with how's your heart? How are you feeling? What's going on in your life? It's words spoken, blessings, encouragement, gratitude. It's acts of service, small things done with great love. It's humility, apologizing first, even if you think you're only 10% wrong. It's spiritual leadership, initiating prayer, opening the word, lifting her up, even when you don't feel qualified. And most of all, dear friend, it's presence. Full, attentive, unhurried presence. Now, this won't be easy. You'll face resistance. Your pride will whisper, she should go first. Your schedule will say, you don't have time. And that damn gesture, will tempt you to escape into comfort or distraction. But leadership starts with you. And if you want to be a him in public, you have to be a him at home. Your wife needs a leader, not a roommate. And if you're not married, don't zone out here. Pay attention. Now is the time to learn how to love sacrificially. Build the muscles of presence, patience, purity, and prayer. Your future M, or your most trusted adult relationship, will thrive or suffer based on the habits you're forming right now. So, dear brothers, I'll ask you straight. Are you showing up for your M? Are you leading with humility, strength, and love? Are you more invested in your reputation or your relationship? Don't give your best to the world and your leftovers to your wife. Because your most proximate relationship is not an obstacle to your mission. Dear friends, it is your mission. Lead there first. Love there first. Because if you win everywhere else and lose here, you haven't won anything that lasts. Dear friends, that was the 5th Q point, the M. Now we proceed to the shorties. I love this title of the 5th Q point, the shorties. So this is the 6th Q point in QSource in the first quadrant. So dear friends, this is the daily discipline of fatherhood and influencing the next generation. Here is him with his shorties. So we're on the 6th Q point in Get Right. So the shorties, the daily discipline of fatherhood and influencing the next generation. Brothers, few roles a man carries are more sacred than this one. Fatherhood. The influence, the guidance, the love we give to the next generation, whether biological, adopted, fostered, or even spiritual. Your shorties are the souls God has entrusted to your care. And in F3's language, first quadrant, 6th Q point, the shorties is about the daily discipline of intentional fatherhood. This isn't just about having kids, it's about showing up. Dear friends, it's about showing up day after day after day as a man who leads them toward truth, toward courage and purpose. The kind of man whose life becomes their compass. The man who doesn't just tell them who to be, but shows them. There is no legacy greater than this. The world will forget your promotions, your workouts, even your successes. But dear friends, your children, they will carry your example for a lifetime. The words you speak, the way you listen, the tone you use, the time you give, the things sink in deep. They shape hearts. And one day, dear friends, they will echo in the lives of your grandchildren. And yet, this is where men retreat. Because fatherhood isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's thankless. It's slow. You don't always see the payoff. There are no awards for consistent bedtime stories, for changing diapers, for the 15th ride to soccer practice. But let me tell you, dear friends, that success, that consistency is where greatness lives. Fatherhood is not about doing big things occasionally. It's about doing small things daily with love, focus, and purpose. Ruse be ruse, day by day, right? That's like the Persian phrase. Ruse be ruse, day by day. Daily with love, focus, and purpose. So let me ask you, are you investing in your shorties or are you outsourcing them? Because the world is more than ready to shape them with screens, right? With screens. influencers, friends, and ideologies. If you're not the loudest, most consistent voice in their life, someone else will be. Someone who doesn't love them. Someone who doesn't know their purpose. Someone who doesn't care about their soul. Dear friends, now let's be real. A lot of men have deep wounds from their own fathers. Some had dads who were angry. Others had dads who were absent. And some had dads who were physically there, but emotionally gone. Dear friends, the pain is real. But you do not have to pass it on. The cycle can stop with you because you are not defined by your past. You are defined by your choices. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. So what does it look like? It's coming home with energy, not just leftovers. It's putting your phone down and picking up their eyes. It's asking intentional questions, even when they give one-word answers. It's correcting with grace, not shame. It's apologizing when you lose your temper. It's praying with them, blessing them, showing them what a man of God looks like, not just on Sundays, but every single day. It's helping them learn that failure isn't fatal, that feelings don't define them, and that they are not alone. It's about being with them, helping with them with their homework, going to their practices. It's about being a father. It's putting in the reps, just like you do in the gloom, dear friends. Because the reps of fatherhood may not give you six-pack abs, but they give your children a foundation that never cracks. And for those of you who don't have biological children, hear me clearly. You still have shorties to lead. Look around you, dear friends. There are young men in your family, your neighborhood, your region, who are craving mentorship, guidance, and an example of manhood that isn't toxic, weak, or hollow. Be that man. Say yes to that role. Fatherhood isn't about biology. It's about legacy. This is the daily discipline of fatherhood. And it's not just one of the concentric circles. It's a core mission. A lifelong stewardship. So, dear friends, let me challenge you today. Don't just provide, be present. Don't just correct, instruct with love. Don't just talk, live what you teach. Because your children won't remember everything you said, but they'll never forget how you lived. And when you're gone, your voice will still echo in their hearts. So dear friends, so let's plant deep, stay close, lead strong, be the father you once needed, or the one you were blessed to have. That's how you honor your calling. And that's how you get right. So dear friends, that was the 6th Q point, shorties. We now proceed to the 7th Q point, shield lock. We're still in the first quadrant. We're on the shield lock. This is the daily discipline of mutual accountability and brotherhood. Now, dear friends, many of you might not have a shield lock, but now we're going to be studying it and you'll see the importance and the value of the shield lock, the 7th Q point of the first quadrant. So what is this shield lock? In this journey of becoming a high impact man, no one walks alone. We weren't designed to. We weren't built for isolation. And that brings us to the 7th Q point of the first quadrant, the shield lock. The daily discipline of locking arms with other men for mutual accountability, support, and battle readiness. A shield lock is more than friendship. It's more than having a few guys you text. It's more than attending the same workout. It's the gritty, sometimes uncomfortable, always powerful practice of living your mission in brotherhood. Why do we need it? Because life is war. Life is war. And a lone soldier is a dead soldier. The world is too loud. The enemy is too cunning. And our own hearts are too deceptive for us to fight this battle alone. Every man has blind spots. And remember, every man has a jester, right? And every man faces that temptation, and every man gets tired. And when he does, who surrounds him? Who knows his struggles? Who asks the questions he doesn't want to answer? Who won't let him hide? Dear friends, that's the power of the Shield Lock. It's not a group chat. It's not a Bible study. It's not a monthly meetup. It's proximity plus vulnerability plus consistency. It's men who show up, press in, and fight together. The name says it all. A locked shield formation, like Roman soldiers side by side, interlocked, stronger together, weaker alone. In ancient battle, the front line was strongest when each man's shield protected his brother. If one dropped his shield, it wasn't just himself he exposed. It was the whole unit. That's how serious this is. Your strength protects your brother. His presence saves you when you're weak. And let's be honest, dear friends. Modern masculinity lies to us. It tells us to man up, stay quiet, power through, be the lone wolf. But isolation isn't strength. It's a setup. It's how the jester wins. It's how marriages collapse, addictions fester, faith dries up, and depression takes hold. So what does Shield Lock look like? It looks like checking in when no one else would. It looks like confessing before you're caught. It looks like getting called out in love and not running away. It looks like having brothers who know your tendencies, your triggers, and your heart. It looks like doing hard things together and not quitting. Some men say, I've got friends. Good. But are they sharpening you? Do they know your battles? Will they pull you from the edge? Will they walk into your house when things fall apart and sit with you until the fog clears? Dear friends, that's a shield lock. It's also a commitment. It requires honesty. It takes time. It means showing up when it's inconvenient. But the fruit? Unshakable. It's where trust grows. It's where wounds heal. It's where real masculinity thrives. Not in performance, but in presence. And dear friends, here's the secret. You don't find a shield lock. You build it. One rep at a time, one conversation, one confession, one shared mission. You don't wait for the perfect group. You step into discomfort and create it. The man you invite might be waiting for someone to ask. And when it's built, you guard it. You don't flake. You don't vanish. You don't ghost. You lock shields and you stay locked. So, brother, who are you locking shields with? Who knows when you're off? Who texts you when you ghost a workout? Who speaks into your marriage, your fatherhood, your temptations? Who celebrates your wins and stands in your losses? If you don't have those men, it's time to get intentional. And if you do, thank God for them. And fight for them like they fight for you. Because we don't just work out together. We grow up together. We sharpen one another. We carry each other. And when the darkness hits, We fight side by side until the sun rises again. That's shield lock. And that's how men get right together. So dear friends, that was the 7th Q point, the shield lock of the first quadrant, get right. We proceed to the 8th Q point, the whetstone. This is the daily discipline of being sharpened through mentorship. The whetstone, 8th Q point of the first quadrant. Here you can see he is a whetstone and he is mentoring. 8th Q point of the first quadrant, get right. The daily discipline of being sharpened through mentorship. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I love this. It's from Proverbs 27:17. I share an anecdote. In one of our COTs, one of our circle of trusts that we have here, at the end, when it is time for taps and then we bring it in and it's time for prayers, one of our Q, always at the end of his prayers, he always says, as iron sharpens iron. And all the hymns together say together, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And they all say together, so one man sharpens another. It's very powerful. That's not just a nice quote to hang on a wall, dear friends. It's a charge. It's a charge, dear friends, a warning and a promise. Because if you want to become the man you were created to be, the high impact man who leads his family, influences his community, and stands firm in the storm, you cannot do it alone. You must be sharpened. And that's what the first quadrant, Q point 8, the whetstone, is about. It's the daily discipline of intentional mentorship. A hymn is not just shaped by his workouts or his willpower. He is shaped by another man. A stronger blade, a wiser voice, a trusted soul who files away dullness and pulls out greatness. Whetstone isn't about control or hierarchy. It's about relationship. One man taking responsibility to help another man grow. One man courageous enough to receive what he needs to hear, even when it stings, and both men better because of it. A knife left unsharpened grows dull, ineffective. The same is true of a man. He may still have form, still show up, still swing, but he doesn't cut through the noise, the lies, the laziness, or the fear. His edge is gone. And the only way to get it back is through friction, the holy friction of whetstone. But let's be real. Most men aren't seeking this out. They're surrounded by acquaintances, followers, co-workers, even fans, but not mentors. Not real sharpening. Because sharpening is uncomfortable. It humbles us. It confronts our blind spots. It puts ego on the altar. So far, we've gone through, this is our 8th Q point. And you see how much every one of these focus on discipline, right? Because we're getting right. That's exactly why it works. In F3, every hymn should be both a blade and a stone. That means you are actively seeking someone who will challenge you, question you, teach you, and call you higher. And at the same time, you are pouring into another man, not from a pedestal, but from love and experience. So how does this play out? It might be a weekly walk with an older him who's farther down the road. It might be a phone call where he asks, how's your marriage? Really? It might be a coffee meetup where you confess sin, not to be judged, but to be restored. It might be reading a book together. It might be sharing the hardest chapter of your story and letting God redeem it through your voice. Whetstone, it's not an event. It's a discipline. It's a lifeline. What happens when you avoid it? You drift. You lead from fumes. You rely on past victories. You get stuck in patterns no one is naming. You start to believe your own press, your own lies. Either way, your edge disappears. But a man in a whetstone relationship is anchored. He is known. He is corrected when he's wrong. He is encouraged when he's weary. He is sharpened for the battles ahead. And let's flip the question. Who are you sharpening? Because someone is watching you, someone younger, less experienced, a step behind. He doesn't need perfection. He needs presence, your voice, your wounds, your wisdom, your scars that speak of survival and surrender. Don't let shame or pride keep you from stepping into that role. Mentorship isn't a title, it's a gift to give and to receive. So, dear brothers, find your whetstone and be a whetstone. Because no matter how strong you think you are, you will dull without another man grinding against your edge. And no matter how weak you feel, you still carry a blade that can sharpen someone else. Let iron sharpen iron. Let men sharpen men. And let us become dangerous together. Dear friends, that was the 8th Q point of the first quadrant, get right. Now we go to the 9th Q point, Mammon, the daily discipline of controlling your pursuit of wealth. These are all so important. The daily discipline of controlling your pursuit of wealth. Mammon. There's a reason this Q point comes after the whetstone. Because when you begin to sharpen your life, you gain clarity. And few things reveal your true priorities more than how you relate to money. In the words of Scripture, you cannot serve both God and mammon. Mammon isn't just cash. It's not a bank balance or a paycheck. Mammon is the love of money, the spirit of greed, accumulation, control, and false security. The first quadrant, Q.9. Mammon is the daily discipline of controlling your pursuit of wealth, not being controlled by it. It's about putting money in its rightful place as a tool, not a master. So, dear friends, let's be honest. Our culture idolizes wealth. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with messages that say more is better, net worth equals self-worth, and that the man with the most toys wins. We're told to hustle, grind, level up, and build empires. But what good is an empire if your soul is bankrupt? What good is an empire if your soul is bankrupt? F3 doesn't say money is bad. Far from it. A hymn provides, he earns, he works hard, he builds, he supports his M and shorties, he stewards his talents, he contributes generously, but he never lets wealth define him, own him, or consume him. Because mammon is sneaky. It doesn't show up with horns and a contract. It shows up in late nights at the office, in forgotten weekends, in silent dinners, in missed games, and in the quiet drift of a man who used to be on mission, but now just chases numbers. Here's the truth. Mammon wants your heart. and you can't partially resist it. You must decide every single day, will I chase purpose or possessions? So what does the discipline look like? It's choosing contentment over comparison. It's living with margin, financially and spiritually. It's rejecting the lie that success means more and embracing the truth that success means obedience. It's giving first, saving wisely, and spending last. It's asking, what is this money for? Instead of, how much can I get? You don't have to be rich to be ruled by mammon, and you don't have to be poor to be free from it. It's not about income. It's about alignment. And your finances aligned with, are your finances aligned with your values? Does your bank statement reflect your faith? Do your goals build legacy or ego? And dear friends, here's a big one. Are you working to build a platform or a pedestal? A platform lifts others. A pedestal lifts yourself. The difference is mission. Every dollar you earn is an opportunity to bless, to invest in others, to model responsibility to your kids, to support your community, to uplift the broken. Money is a powerful servant, but a terrible God. So what happens when you lose that discipline? You become owned. You compromise your values. You make decisions from fear. You become a slave to your lifestyle. You become rich, but relationally, spiritually, and emotionally bankrupt. Brother, there's a better way, and it starts with intentionality. So, create a budget and actually use it. Give before you spend. Eliminate unnecessary debt. Ask your shield lock to challenge your goals. Teach your shorties how to handle money with character, not just strategy, and never let your identity be tied to your income. You are not your wallet. You are not your resume. You are not your possessions. You are a man on mission, and everything you have is a resource to advance that mission. So take back your freedom, break the chains of mammon, and use your wealth. Don't worship it. Wow, so wonderful, these Q points. So that was the 9th Q point, mammon. We're going to the 10th Q point, prayer. The 10th Q point of the first quadrant, get right, prayer. Dear friends, this is the daily discipline of communing with the Creator. Here you can see a hymn in the state of prayer. First quadrant, 10th Q point, prayer. The daily discipline of communing with the Creator. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes strength isn't enough. No matter how many workouts you complete, how disciplined you become, how many shield locks surround you, you still hit walls. You still feel empty. You still face questions that strategy can't solve, fears that reps can't crush, burdens too deep for words. Dear friends, that's where prayer comes in. First quadrant, 10th Q point, prayer. It isn't about religion. It's not about rituals or appearances. It's about communion, the daily, raw, honest, intentional connection between a man and his maker. Prayer is not a box to check. It is oxygen for the soul. In the F3 lexicon, prayer is defined as the daily discipline of communing with the Creator. It's where the high-impact man turns inward and upward, where he confesses, listens, praises, pleads, and aligns his will with a higher one. Because the hymn doesn't just get right physically, he gets right spiritually. And let's be real, a man who doesn't pray is a man who fights alone. He carries every burden on his shoulders. He faces every storm with limited power. He relies on his own wisdom, and eventually that well runs dry. But the man who prays, he taps into infinite power. He exchanges anxiety for peace. He lays down control and receives clarity. He remembers who he is and whose he is. Prayer is not about performance, it's about presence. It's not about saying the right words, it's about showing up daily and being with God. And it's hard because silence is uncomfortable. Vulnerability is unnatural. Stillness feels like weakness. But that's the very soil where strength is born, the secret place. Jesus didn't need a prayer, but he still prayed, often, alone, in anguish, in joy, in purpose. If the Son of God needed to commune with the Father, how much more do we? So what does discipline of prayer look like? It looks like starting your day in surrender, not stress, whispering a cry for help in the middle of a conflict, praising God for that sunrise after the gloom, interceding for your your shorties, your shield lock, journaling when the words won't come, sitting still when answers don't come, and staying anyway. Prayer isn't about getting things, it's about getting God. It's not about changing him. It's about letting him change us. When you skip prayer, you drift, you grow callous, you lose perspective. You may still perform, but your soul is starving. But when you pray daily, not just in crisis, but as discipline, you become anchored. Your mind is renewed, your ego is tamed, your direction becomes clear, and your strength is not your own. It's borrowed from heaven. And here's the truth. Prayer is warfare. It pushes back the darkness. It breaks strongholds. It heals wounds. Prayer heals wounds. It invites peace that passes understanding into chaos, that passes comprehension. And you don't need to be eloquent. You don't need to be spiritual. You just need to be honest. Because God isn't moved by performance. He's moved by presence. So, brother, take time daily, before your meetings, before your workouts, before your family wakes, before your doubts creep in. Take the knee, not in defeat, but in devotion, not in weakness, but in worship, because you're not just a man trying to get it right. You're a son of the King, walking with the Father, one conversation at a time. Pray like it matters, because it does. Dear friends, that was the 10th cue point, prayer. And before we go to the 11th, I'll share the King, the fitness aspect of the 3 F's, right? There's fitness, fellowship, and faith. The fitness aspect, of course, it's affecting me. The fellowship, of course, the brotherhood is amazing. But one of the aspects that often is overlooked is the faith. And of course, visiting different churches, but the aspect of kneeling down and praying with our pacts, the brotherhood, is so moving in the COT. And I enjoy that so immensely much. Hearing all the different prayers from all the different pacts. So beautiful. And I encourage every one of my fellow brothers to open up when it's time for taps. Open up, share your heart, share your concerns, your whatever you want to pray for. And then when you kneel down, clear your mind, clear your heart, focus on the prayers. Turn to your Creator. It's so beautiful. when your fellow hymns, their hand is resting on you. It's really moving. And I encourage you to dive in and engage in prayer, the 10th cue point of the first quadrant, get right. Dear friends, we move to the 11th cue point of the first quadrant, get right. So this one is called study. What? We have to study, right? So the 11th cue point is called study. This is the daily discipline of reading and learning truth. So here we see a hymn, studying. Study, the daily discipline of reading and learning truth. A man cannot live on instinct alone, no matter how strong he is, how good his intentions are, or how fiery his faith feels. Without truth, he will drift. Feelings change, moods shift, culture moves, but truth stands firm. So the first quadrant, the 11th cue point, study. This is the discipline of seeking, learning, and applying truth. And it's not about academic knowledge or intellectual pride. It's about a man deciding every day that his mind must be renewed if his life is to be transformed. We live in an age of noise. Everyone's got to take social media. There's podcasts, breaking news. There's TikToks and influencers. It's a flood of opinion dressed up like wisdom. And if we're not careful, we start building our foundation on memes instead of meaning. But the high impact man is different. He opens the word, he opens the book, he opens his mind, not to be tossed around by ideas, but to be anchored by truth. Because study isn't about sharpening your convictions. It's about training your thoughts. It's about letting truth cut away your excuses, your lies, your laziness, and your pride. Without the daily discipline of study, a man becomes shallow. He reacts instead of reflects. He imitates instead of leads. He repeats the mistakes of the past because he never learned from them. He lets the world tell him what to think, how to feel, and who to be. But when a man studies daily, he becomes grounded, right? He gains clarity. He becomes a better husband, father, leader, friend, and a follower of God. And study isn't passive. It's not scrolling. It's not about binge watching educational content. It's intentional engagement with life-shaping, time-tested, soul-honing truth. That might look like reading scriptures in the early morning before anyone else is awake. Diving into a biography of a man who led with courage and conviction. Studying leadership, principles, emotional intelligence, or spiritual growth materials. Memorizing a verse or reflecting on a line until it reshapes your mindset. Sitting with a passage until it exposes what's broken and calls you into what's better. Study is less about what you read, and more about how it shapes you. And it's not just for you, it's for the ones you lead. A studied man pours wisdom into his children. He brings insight into his shield lock. He leads with depth, not shallowness. And dear friends, let's be honest. We all study something, whether it's fantasy football, politics, stocks, or muscle groups. Every man becomes a student of what he values. So the real question is, are you studying what truly matters? And here's the challenge. Make it daily. Not when convenient, not when you're in crisis, not when you feel like it daily. Because just like you don't build muscle without reps, you don't build wisdom without study. And when you combine prayer, the 10th cue point, with study, you begin to walk in both communion and clarity. You hear God, and you begin to understand what he's saying. You don't just live right, you think right. And that, brother, is the mark of a hymn. He feeds his soul with truth. He trains his mind with discipline. He equips himself for every good work. So crack open that Bible, pick up that book, highlight that truth, and let your study fuel your mission, because you're not just getting smarter, you're getting stronger, you're getting sharper, you're becoming the man you're created to be. And that, dear friends, is the 11th Q point of the first quadrant. Get right. So, dear friends, we now are at the 12th Q point of the first quadrant. This is the last Q point of the first quadrant, which will be end our session for today. The final Q point of the first quadrant is meeting. The daily discipline of consciously aligning with your purpose. Let's find out what this is. Meeting, the daily discipline of consciously aligning with your purpose. Every man wakes up to something. For many, it's the chaos of a packed calendar or the dull routine of a job. Some wake up chasing success, others just trying to survive. But the high-impact man doesn't begin his day by default. He begins it by design. He starts with a deliberate moment of clarity, a conscious encounter with his mission. That moment is what we in F3 call the meeting. The daily discipline of realigning yourself with your true purpose. Meeting isn't about joining a scheduled event or adding a group huddle. It's the discipline of sitting down, often with no one else around, and reminding yourself of why you're here. It's your personal realignment. And without that moment of realignment, even the most well-intentioned man can drift off course. Because direction without purpose is just motion. And motion, when it's disconnected from mission, eventually leads to burnout, regret, or aimlessness. In a world that constantly shouts what you should care about, what you should do, and who you should be, the man who practices the meeting takes back control of his identity. He doesn't let the culture set his compass. He doesn't let his inbox define his impact. Instead, he steps out of the noise to hear the whisper of truth. He doesn't just move, he moves with meaning. This alignment might take different forms. For one man, it might be 5 minutes of silence after prayer, reflecting on a verse that centers him. For another, it's journaling a daily affirmation that roots him in his values. For someone else, it might be walking through a mental checklist of the roles God has called him to. A leader, a servant, husband, father, son, however it's done. The point is, dear friends, is the same: to ensure that the man who walks into the world each morning is aligned with something greater than himself. And what happens when we skip the meeting? Slowly our decisions start flowing from emotion instead of conviction. We react instead of lead. We drift into busyness but lack boldness. We chase other people's goals and neglect our God-given mission. And that's how a man gets to the end of a week, a month, or a decade and wonders, what was all this for? But when you begin with the meeting, everything changes. You walk into your day with fire in your soul and purpose in your step. You respond to challenges with poise. You lead your family with clarity. You speak to your co-workers with calm authority, because you're not just hustling, you're aiming. And that difference, that daily alignment, is what turns on ordinary man into a man of impact. Meeting also links all of the first quadrant together. It ties the red pill to your rhythm. It gives meaning to your king and queen disciplines. It clarifies why you resist your jester, why you love your M sacrificially, why you train your shorties, why you shield lock, and why you walk in prayer and study. In many ways, the meeting is the final thread. So well put together, right? It's the final thread that binds the entire get right quadrant together because it keeps the him awake, aware, and aligned. And dear friends, and don't miss this, the meeting isn't just for you. Your family needs a man who knows who he is. Your team needs a leader who's clear. Your community needs a brother whose life is aligned with eternal truth. And when you make time to meet with your purpose, you're not just anchoring yourself, you're stabilizing everyone around you. So, dear friends, stop hitting snooze on your calling. Take 5 minutes, 10, whatever it takes. Reconnect with the fire in your bones. Remind yourself what matters. Declare your why, and then walk into your day with your head high, your eyes clear, and your mission locked in. You were made for more than motion. You were made for mission. Dear friends, that was the first quadrant of QSource. So next time, we'll be going into the second quadrant. So as of now, thank you so much. We'll be back. Enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye.